if you wanted to call the meeting to order, we're ready to go.
Great. Okay, let's see. I don't even know the date today. Is it the 21st?
Correct.
December 21st, 2020, meeting for Environmental Natural Resource Commission. Called to order at 7:06 p.m. Click, click. Let's see. I didn't get a packet. Did it come in the mail? I didn't get one.
My apologies. We emailed and mailed that to you. So
that's okay. My mailman is he comes at all sorts of times of the days and doesn't always bring everything.
Should I email you one right now?
That would be fantastic.
Okay. While I'm doing that, the next item is roll call.
Okay. Can we just do here's in chat?
I think you have to call their names. Why don't I call them out for you?
That'd be fantastic.
No, I kind of lost my place here. Okay, here we go. So we are doing the roll call, and Commissioner Buttleman?
Here.
Commissioner Tuday?
Here.
Commissioner Redmond?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
And Madam Chair, Commissioner Okeson and Halser and Dozer are not present tonight. So thank you for that roll call. And then right now, our next step, Madam Chair, is approval of the agenda.
Yes. All right. I did you email that to me? I can probably.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
So I think we might have a suggested addition to the agenda. Is that correct, Commissioner Redmond?
I'm sorry. Yes. I just wanted to introduce the climate adaptation plan. We're at a draft stage, so just a minute or two on that.
Perfect. I'm going to get my kids to turn off the TV. Hold on one quick second because I can't hear it very good. All right. Getting down to business. Sorry about that, guys. It's been kind of a crazy time. I'm sure everybody's having that.
Well, Madam Chair, rather than emailing this to you because I'm finding I'm struggling to do a bunch of things at once.
Oh, don't worry.
I will just remind you that on the agenda tonight we have new business, which is the 2020 annual reports. And I will present the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission report, sustainability report, and solid waste report. Then we have unfinished business, where we will be continuing our discussion on the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area Ordinance.
Yes.
Commissioner Redmond has made an addition to commissioner presentations, the climate adaptation plan, and then we have 4 items on staff presentation. Election of chair and vice chair, just kind of a reminder that that's coming up in January. Rescheduling the January and February E&R Commission due to those holidays. An update on the holiday light and extension cord recycling, and an update on the Nature Center task force. So that's the agenda in front of you, and we are looking for a motion to approve that.
I motion to approve.
Second.
I was going to say, Commissioner Redmond moves to as amended, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Yes.
And I believe it's Commissioner Tuday.
Do I have a second?
Am I saying? And I believe Commissioner Buttleman seconded.
Perfect. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The agenda for this evening passes. And I believe now we need the minutes from last time. Like, I'm going to find it. I'm checking my email right now.
That is correct. So we are looking at the November 16th draft minutes of the Environmental Commission meeting.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to look it over? I'm sorry, I have not. For once, it's not me. Yay! All right. How's it look, everybody?
I motion to approve it as submitted.
Fantastic.
Looks good.
All right. I believe Commissioner, is it Toddy, right? Did I say it right?
Toddy.
Oh, I apologize. I pronounced that wrong. Toddy.
Okay.
No problem.
Toddy.
All right. Makes a motion to approve it. And I believe, was it Commissioner Redmond seconded? Is that right?
Buttleman,
Oh.
actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Buttleman seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries for the approval of last month's minutes. And it looks like, is it new or old business first?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're moving on to new business, which is the
sorry.
2020 annual report. And the annual report is brought forward by the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission and the Community Development Department to the City Council and the public yearly. The annual report does serve as an important method of updating the City Council and the community on the city's environmental and sustainability accomplishments and goals. The 2020 annual reports will include sections for Environmental and Natural Resources Commission. So this will include updates on what the commission has reviewed over the year and your goals. The sustainability report, which includes updates on sustainability initiatives taken by the city on our city facilities and citywide, includes such things as updates on our Green Step Cities program. And then the solid waste report, which gives updates on the city's organized residential trash and recycling program. And all of this is included in the annual, what we call our Community Development Department report. And that includes also updates from other commissions and boards, as well as updates from our department. And this report then will be presented to the City Council in early 2021. And then we hope that pieces of the report will be used in the 2021 State of the City video, which is scheduled to be released in February. I believe that's how they're handling the State of the City event this year virtually. But I wanted to share with you, number one, the annual report from last year, just so you can kind of get a feel for that. You can see that we had the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission section here. We updated on all the activities that we participated in over the year, and our membership and our goals. And you can see each section includes about 2 pages with text and pictures. So that's why what I submitted to you is somewhat limited in content. These are some of the other commissions. So that's on the city's website if you're interested in reviewing last year's report. So with that, I will just open it up for comment and feedback on the information I did include in your packet on the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission, sustainability, and solid waste reports.
Would you be able to call people? Because I'm on my phone. I can't see anybody.
So maybe we could just do a round table, Madam Chair, just to see if there's any comments and feedback. And then with those, I'll make those updates and we'll include the report in that final version.
Fantastic.
So Perhaps, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, we'll start with Commissioner Redmond.
Thanks for starting with me. Actually, I didn't have any editorial comments when I went through it before, and I was just
Glazing through it again to just see if there was anything I could offer up. I thought it's good content. I mean, you always do a great job with this, Sean. So I don't have any comments really.
You know, Commissioner Redmond, I don't think I added our climate adaptation planning process, so I think I will add that under our sustainability report.
You think, will there be space?
Maybe. So just by calling on you made me think of that. So thanks for your help. So let us know if you have any other comments. But with that, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, perhaps we could move on to Commissioner Buttleman.
Well, I think this has received a lot of attention over the last several meetings, actually. And I'm very pleased with the way it's turning out. Has turned out.
And Madam Chair, as a reminder on the environmental and natural resources, the update there, I included our work on the solid waste management ordinance, which we modified that entire ordinance based on the new contracts with our residential recycling and trash haulers. So that was a huge undertaking, and we finished that in February. And due to COVID, it was kind of put on hold. But for your information, that ordinance was approved by the City Council in November, and then the standards were approved by them in December. So thank you for your work in that regard. It also includes our work on Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area, which we started a few months ago. It talks about sustainable practices, how you reviewed the environmental purchasing policy. And then I think a huge component of this, and I think it's really important to spell out, is the environmental education piece. And years past, how the commission partnered with the Nature Center. And now, of course, the Nature Center is shuttered, and those naturalists have been laid off, and we don't have that same support from our main environmental education hub. So we hope to come up with a new plan, after the Nature Center Task Force releases their recommendations and so forth. And then I included the membership. So that's pretty much it on the Environmental Commission report, Madam Chair, for your information. So thank you for those comments, Commissioner Buttleman. Then perhaps I could move on to Commissioner Toddy.
I'll echo the other comments that I thought looked really good. I just have two questions on the sustainability report in that table. So for gallons of residential drinking water, 6 gallons less than last year, is that per person? It was unclear on what the units were on that.
Thank you for pointing that out. I remember when we published this, someone had a comment about that too, and I said, boy, you're right, it wasn't real clear. And this information does come from our greenhouse gas assessment and St. Paul Regional Water Services, who of course supplies water to our residents. So gallons of residential drinking water, 6 gallons less than last year. Let me, maybe that's per household, so I'm going to clarify that.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And then the other one was the average miles per gallon city vehicles. It said 0.3 mile per gallon reduction. Just wondering if I was reading that right, that it was a reduction in gas mileage, or if it was a reduction in fuel usage.
This one was also highlighted that it didn't make sense, so I obviously didn't include the updated version. But average miles per gallon, clearly there were less miles driven, so less gas was used. But I will clarify that in this terminology here.
Perfect. Yeah, that's all I had.
Okay,
It looks
thank
really
you.
good.
So, Madam Chair, I think we've run the gamut of our commissioners, and I understand that you might not have it in front of you.
I do now, but I'm just now seeing it for the first time. So
Sure, understood.
sorry about that.
Well, if you do see anything that stands out,
Yeah.
please let me know via email.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, that sounds great. So thank you for that review. Again, I will work with our department to finalize those details with some colorful pictures. And I did want to take a commission picture of all of us, but here on Zoom. But since we have some members that aren't present, I'll wait until the January meeting. And we can take our COVID snapshot.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right, thank you. So I will move on if you don't mind, Commissioner, Madam Chair.
Oh, yeah, please.
All right. So we're moving on to the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area Ordinance. And I just have a short presentation just to keep things exciting.
Woohoo!
I know. All right, here we are. So on January 4th of 2017, the state did adopt new Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area rules. And now local governments are required to update their ordinances and comprehensive plans based on the new rules. The deadline for Maplewood's review is October 1st of 2021. So Maplewood's critical area is just located on the south side of Maplewood. As you can see, south of Carver Avenue and west of 494 there. It does include 143 acres, of which more than 75% is guided as open space, so the Ramsey County and Maplewood Fish Creek Neighborhood Preserve. And the remaining is made up of rural low-density housing. There are approximately 35 single-family homes that are located along Carver Avenue and Dorland Road within that corridor. And this map here identifies all the natural resources that this ordinance is designed to protect, including the bluff impact zones, the shoreland, around the river. And Maplewood's portion of the corridor does not include, river access or anything. So there's no shoreland impacts. And then I wanted to remind you what we're trying to protect here. This was that tour that I presented in November, where I hiked the top of Fish Creek, and you can actually see some peaks of the St. Paul skyline across the river. And then if you go further into St. Paul along the creek, Fish Creek, you'll see kind of these ravines. So it's really a beautiful piece of property. So when we reviewed the draft ordinance, which was based off of the DNR's draft ordinance, the one that I had put together for the city of Maplewood, the ENR had a couple questions and comments on that. So I think what I'd like to do is just remind you of those questions and then how I've addressed them in the new ordinance. And please call out if you have a comment or additional question. So I'll continue. The first question, and then I modified the ordinance based on your comments and some other research that I've done. So I think we have a kind of a cleaner version of our draft ordinance. So what are the bluff line setbacks for decks, sheds, and detached garages? When I researched this, the rules do allow for decks to follow the same setback as principal structures. And as you recall, that's 100 feet to the bluff line or in line with the adjacent home setbacks, whichever is least restrictive. And in Maplewood, we identified approximately 18 of those single family properties that are adjacent to bluff line. And all 18, it appears, or maybe it was 11 out of the 18, it appeared were constructed closer than that 100-foot setback to the bluff line. But we do know those are pre-existing, and they can build so they're in line with the adjacent homes. So with the decks, there's also some language that allows a deck to encroach up to 15% in the required bluff line. So once the house is there, the deck can encroach further towards the bluff line. So it does give that flexibility for homeowners, that have pre-existing homes to build on with those decks, as long as they don't encroach into the bluff line, which is 20 feet from the bluff. And then the sheds, it does identify that the rules are silent on setbacks to sheds and detached garages. So for that reason, I was proposing adding language that would allow those structures to follow the same setbacks as the principal structures, and includes the encroachment allowance of up to 15% in the required bluff line setback. And that would be for sheds or detached garages that are under 200 square feet. Wait, excuse me. Oh, to encroach into that 15% if the structure is under 200 square feet. So basically just a shed could encroach into there. The detached garage would have to follow the principal structure setback. Can sheds and garages be covered by the legal nonconforming status? Because as you recall, the rules do allow those legally nonconforming principal structures and decks that do not meet the setback requirements to be expanded, as long as they're not getting closer to the bluff, so it can be expanded sideways, basically. And it does not allow sheds or garages that same exemption. So I've identified that in the ordinance. Would non-conforming principal structures and detached garages be allowed to rebuild if destroyed by fire or peril? And the city does have a non-conforming ordinance that would allow any non-conforming structure that was destroyed in such a manner to the extent greater than 50% of its market value to be rebuilt if the permit was issued within 180 days. And so that's part of our existing ordinance, but I will have to ensure with our city attorney and the DNR, to determine if that's something that would apply here as well. I'm assuming it would, because that's a citywide ordinance. A couple more questions here that you had posed and I researched. Remove all shore impact zone references. So there were a couple references to that I had not taken off in the draft ordinance. So I did that because there are no public waters within our corridors, so we don't really have to reference that.
Sorry.
Compare the wireless communications tower regulations to the city's existing ordinance to ensure there are no inconsistencies. And so here, our overall ordinance allows wireless communication towers with the conditional use permit and additional setback and height restrictions. And in the draft MRCCA ordinance, it further requires the applicant to demonstrate that functional coverage could not be provided through co-location, a tower at a lower height, or a tower at a location outside of the MRCCA. So it would prove pretty much impossible, I think, to find a location there to install that and meet our conditional use permit requirements. So that will protect that that bluff impact zone. What is the bluff line setback for private patios, driveways, and parking areas? So in the ordinance, they define impervious surface, hard surface coverage. And in that, they include a patio. And the model ordinance states that impervious surfaces must not be constructed within the bluff impact zone. So they could be constructed up to that 20 feet to the bluff. Unlike decks that can't. Driveways and parking areas must maintain the same setback as the structure. So they couldn't be built further back from the house than allowed. And then these setback requirements have been better defined in the new ordinance that I drafted. Last set of 4 questions here. Make sure the stormwater management standards are consistent with existing. And it does appear that the stormwater management standards outlined in the draft ordinance are consistent with Maplewood standards. However, I will ensure that our draft ordinance is reviewed by our engineering department to ensure consistency. And we'll be doing that as we move forward. Include the diagrams from the model ordinance. They did include several diagrams kind of defining things like that deck and patio encroachment. And those are good visuals that we should include. However, I ran out of time. So just so you know, they'll be in the next draft. The sign standards from the model ordinance were left off the draft ordinance. Ensure we are okay with the billboard placement. So I had dropped all of the sign standards because the city of Maplewood has a sign code, which is pretty comprehensive. But you identified that, make sure we're okay with the billboard language. And so I checked that out, and our code currently would not allow construction in the MRCCA due to some restrictions on billboard placement to freeways, other signs, and intersections without a variance at least. But including the regulation that those signs also meet the structure placement and height standards that MRCCA will ensure additional protections. So I did include that off-premise sign regulation to the draft ordinance, just that portion of the sign regulations that they included. And then finally, what is the difference between slopes and bluffs? And generally, slopes are not as tall and steep as bluffs. A slope has a 12 to 18% slope over a horizontal distance of 50 feet or greater, or any slope that has a 19% or greater slope regardless of horizontal distance. So it's basically a steep slope that's 50 feet long, horizontal. And then a bluff is a slope that rises at least 25 feet. So it's a high slope, tall. It has an average slope of 18% over a horizontal distance of 25 feet. So these 2 definitions are included in the draft ordinance. The draft ordinance allows development on steep slopes within the corridor area if it can meet certain standards. No development and setback requirements are outlined for bluffs, however. The city should ensure the slope standards outlined in the draft MRCCA ordinance are consistent with the city's overall slope ordinance. And as I had stated before, we'll be reviewing that draft during our next session, because I think we should look at the 2 ordinances together. While the slope ordinance covers all of Maplewood, most of Maplewood slopes are in South Maplewood, and we want to ensure we're consistent with that regulation. So I wanted to give you an update on the next steps. So tonight we're reviewing the draft MRCCA ordinance, and I'm hoping you can offer me some comment and feedback on that. Then in January and February, we'll look at the slope ordinance, which currently it's a very short ordinance. It's about one page. So I think we can get through that fairly quickly. And I also want to invite our one of our engineering staff to come before the commission and talk about slopes. Then I'll work with the DNR once we have those draft ordinances in place to get their comment and feedback, because they'll have to approve that ordinance eventually. Then we should start our outreach with the residents that live in that corridor to ensure they're updated on these changes and why they're being made. Then in May, the Environmental Commission can finalize based on any feedback we've received. In June, we'll have our Planning Commission review the ordinance. They normally review any ordinance that's included in our zoning code, but this is an overlay, so we think it's important for them, to look at that those land use items. And then in July, we'll button all that up, and then hopefully in August and September, we'll bring it to the City Council, and we'll meet our October 1st deadline. So with that, I will open it up to your comments.
Thank you, Sean. That was really well done. My internet keeps cutting me out, so I'm just going to warn you about that. Really well done. Thank you for including all of our concerns with that. And I think it would be really good to be able to see those ordinances next to each other. I think that's a good idea. Does anybody else have any questions or input for Sean? I'm kind of looking to see. I don't see anybody raising hands or anything, but I can't see very good.
I had a question on it's page 6 of the ordinance. It lists PUDs. I wasn't sure what those were because it's not I couldn't find it defined earlier in the ordinance.
Is that on the clean version or the?
Oh, wait, sorry, the marked up version. So
okay.
Packet page 40, under section E, notifications.
Okay. Okay, notifications.
And number 2, the third line.
So amendments to this, so for number 1, here's what it covers. Amendments to this section and to the MRCCA plan must be submitted to the commissioner as presided in Minnesota rules. Oh, okay. So it's just saying that anytime the city has a public hearing for any kind of land use, including conditional uses, variances, appeals, rezonings, preliminary plats, final subdivision plats, master plans, and PUDs. A PUD is a planned unit development. And in Maplewood, such as, let's say someone bought up all 35 houses and they wanted to do a whole planned development there. They were going to have a little grocery store and then a couple little homes. And we'd look at it all as a conditional use permit for that planned unit development. So that is what a PUD is. And it just identifies that if the city has any of those, they do need to go forward to the Natural Resources Commission for review as well. So it's unlikely we'll see any of this sort of thing, hopefully, but it is required to be in our code. There's a lot of reading material, and we're this again still at the draft stages. So if you don't have comments, that is fine. You could always, if you see something, email me. Again, you'll see this again. But next month, I did want to get started on the slope ordinance.
This is just more of a comment than anything specifically, but I thought it looked really good overall. So I was really, happy with the way it was looking. Thought it looked really good.
Thank you. There was certainly a lot of information to take from that draft ordinance from the DNR. I think that was like 15 pages long. So tried to, pull out the pieces that would just apply to our city. Was a little challenging. So, Madam Chair, maybe we can look for additional feedback via email.
That sounds like a good idea.
Okay. And I want to thank you for your comments and feedback. They really did help me narrow in on some of the important changes I needed to make. So thank you for that. So with that,
Visitor.
Madam Chair, I think we're moving on to visitor presentation, which
we got nobody. Ain't nobody except my puppy who keeps jumping on my keyboard. And then after that, that one's Yuki. This is a puppy who's super naughty. Super. Yeah, that's my bearded dragon, Skittledaddle, and Yuki. Looks like commissioner presentations. Commissioner Redmond, is that correct? We added that?
Yes, thank you very much. So I just wanted to give a brief update of some upcoming presentation that we'll actually be doing probably next month. So we've finished we've been working on the climate adaptation plan for the city. There was a large group of folks that have been involved in that over the last year. And we've gotten it to sort of a full draft plan right now. And that is going to be going through a review process. And part of that is wanting to bring that forward to the Environmental Commission just to share that with you all. And so that, I think we'll probably look to have that on the January agenda, but we'll have to coordinate a little bit with that. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that it's there and coming.
Nice.
Madam Chair, thanks to Commissioner Redmond and all his work with his company Pale Blue Dot in facilitating and coordinating and drafting this climate adaptation plan. We had a steering committee made up of members of the community, and we met 6 times, I believe. No, 5, 6, something like that. And we started actually in January, had a real strong start, and then COVID. So then we held all the additional meetings via Zoom, but we were able to pull it off with great comment and feedback from our steering committee. And now we have this great draft plan, which we'll share with you during our next meeting, but it will help guide the city in implementation strategies for dealing with our changing climate.
Yay. Thank you, Commissioner Redmond. I always find it interesting and educational to find out what you've been up to. Is there anything else? I believe that's the only commissioner presentation. Is that correct?
That is correct. And then we would move on to our staff presentations. So okay. I'll take it from here.
Fantastic.
So I wanted to remind the commission that we'll be holding the annual election of chair and vice chair during our January meeting. And commissions past, I'm not sure if this commission had recommended it, but they wanted a reminder just to kind of put it in people's heads that, hey, elections are coming up. So if you're interested in becoming the chair or the vice chair, it's not too stressful. I mean, you, as a chair, run the meeting and attend council meetings if there's items that we have reviewed as updates. And then the vice chair, of course, is the assistant to the chair. So we'll hold that election in January. That'll be the first item. And in 2020, our chair was Commissioner Miller, and our vice chair was Commissioner Okeson. So moving on to the next item. Our commission every year has to reschedule our January and February meetings. The Martin Luther King holiday and President's Day holiday always fall on that Monday. So I'm proposing the rescheduled meetings to be Tuesday, January 26th and Tuesday, February 23rd. So I'll send out that email reminder and you let me know if you have any conflicts. But it seemed to be the most, I have to kind of follow our other commission schedules and ensure we're not overlapping.
I'm sorry, I just had a crazy run through of the parade of animals through my space here. Did you say, were you going over the January and February?
Correct. Yes, I was proposing Tuesday, January 26th and yes, Tuesday, February 23rd. So I'll send out an email reminder about that.
Okay.
Then next is the holiday light and extension cord recycling. So I was attempting to conduct that recycling program again this year, but when I had contacted the scrap yard that I worked with last year that recycles the materials, they were unable to supply us with a container and do the pickups. So I would have had to come up with some container. I would have had to, haul them to the scrapper. And it just seemed more and more challenging, continuing to work from home. So I had to come up with an alternative, which I guess is just letting people know where they can recycle the holiday lights. And we do have something close, St. Paul Regional Water Services at 1900 Rice Street in Maplewood. That is where, of course, most people get their water from St. Paul Regional Water. So if you're there paying your bill or something, you can drop off those holiday lights. And those are being recycled as part of St. Paul's recycling program. But of course, that building is in Maplewood, and they did say that we should promote that to our residents as well. And then Ramsey County Household Hazardous Waste Site at 5 Empire Drive, they take those lights. And then the Washington County Household Hazardous Waste Site at 4039 Cottage Grove Drive in Woodbury. So if you have extra holiday lights and extension cords, make sure you recycle those at one of those locations. And then finally, an update on the Nature Center Task Force. So the last meeting was held on December 3rd. And during that meeting, the task force discussed best use of the site, both short and long term, partnerships, service levels, what type of services should be offered at the Nature Center. Maybe it's I forget what they called it, not online, but kind of a walkthrough, just what type of service levels should the city be offering there. Financial investments, environmental education, and how to handle the volunteer coordination. And what they are doing now is preparing the report, and we'll come up with a recommendation for the city council. I did look on the website there. If you go onto the city's website and just search for Nature Center Task Force, you'll see a draft of the recommendations. And it looks like they're compiling kind of the environmental education piece right now. So I think that's something that we kind of want to keep a close eye on, since our commission, of course, it's actually written in the ordinance that the commission will partner with the Nature Center and support the Nature Center on their environmental education goals. And So we want to see how we can best move forward with our commission and whatever partnerships and solutions we come up with to ensure that we're able to continue with our environmental education goal as well. So those are my staff presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, and that's it. Look at you. How are we done before 8 o'clock? That's crazy. Oh, does anybody have anything else to add? I think let's see. I can't see anybody's faces. I'm sorry. If there's anybody else, wave to Sean, because I can't see anybody but Sean. I'm getting for Christmas for myself, I'm getting a Wi-Fi boost for my house because this is no good. Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. But Sean will have to say it.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe we can just adjourn without a motion. How about that?
Woo!
Can you call a time of adjournment?
7:52 p.m. and
Okay.
we can be adjourned.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
A new year.
Happy holidays.
A new year awaits.
Oh, woohoo! We'll do an icebreaker next time. I got some fun ones from school.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.